With a story. Author of Ashwin Willemse's biography, Rugby Changed My World, is Heindrich Wyngaard and joins us now on Newsday. Heindrich, thank you very much for coming in today. How are you assessing all of this?
I think it was deemed to happen at some point because the tension has been there for a very long time, and it's actually reflecting badly on SuperSport that if they never picked it up, because that's what we saw, those of us watching the rugby every Saturday, then it means they either didn't do anything about it or they thought it will just be over without them having to do anything.
You talk about the tension has been there for a long time. Would this be tension between Ashwin Willemse, Mallet and Botha?
Predominantly between Mallet and Ashwin Willemse, and there are video clips available from as far back as September 2014. There's also others available from 2016, so I would be very surprised, as SA Rugby now says they are, if they never picked up on both SA Rugby and SuperSport, if they never picked up on that tension. So disagreement is fine. Obviously you interpret what's happening on the playing field differently. But the fact that you find particularly Nick Mallett forever interrupting the other commentators, and that includes now Botha. And that's why I'm very cautious not to add a racial tag to this, because Nick is just always been the guy who feels it okay for him to interrupt others, even when they're not done putting their view forward.
You say it was deemed to happen because of the tension that's been ongoing for such a long time. But as far as your relationship with Ashwin Willemse is concerned, and I've also interviewed him on a number of occasions, laid back, easygoing, wonderful to engage. Was this just the final straw? Was it out of character?
It was definitely the final straw. It wasn't out of character that he took a stance, but remember, if you look at the video footage, you'll still see a very calm, collected Ashwin Willemse addressing his two fellow panelists. So I see some media organizations is calling it a storm, and that he was bursting out of the studio.
No, he didn't, not at all.
He didn't, not at all, because he's not that kind of guy. And I can assure you, having had a conversation with him last night, that he is contemplating. He is thinking about what happened, and maybe even questioning whether it was the right thing to do. But at that moment, he felt it was the right thing to do.
Can you share a little bit more about that conversation? Is he angry? How does he feel about it?
No, I think uncertain is maybe the best way to describe it. Uncertain because of SuperSport having said they're having this meeting today. Uncertain because it is a major thing. You are in broadcasting for many, many years. To walk off set, to walk out of the studio during a live broadcast, it's not done. I'm also in broadcasting. It's just not done. And that's why I don't even necessarily agree with him that that was the right thing to do. But I understand why it was important for him to do it at that point.
He is also quoted as saying that he didn't like being labelled a quota player and didn't like being patronized. Was that happening in this tension that existed between Mallet and himself?
I don't get that sense. I know that a lot of people have been asking or commenting, especially black people are commenting that he was called a quota player. He was relating, if you listen carefully, he was relating an experience. So he says while he played, he had to fight against being labeled a quota player, and he's worked hard against being labeled as a quota player, and therefore today he feels he earned the respect that he now enjoys. So I didn't get the sense that either Nick or Nas called him a quota player, and if that may have happened, I mean, it would have clearly been a wrongdoing on their side, and I think that then it would have been a very easy matter to deal with for SuperSport.
Did you ask him what happened after the walkout?
I did not ask him, but I am also not in a position to share the content of our conversation. That's why I'm speaking really about the sense that I'm getting from having had that conversation with him.
And I'm trying my luck. I got to do it, as you will understand. Let's talk about him in the past, if we can. How long and how difficult a climb to success has his career been?
So Ashwin grew up very poor meaning that you live in a shack in the backyard of your grandmother with uncles and cousins. Being poor also means that you don't have the shoes that other kids have to go to school with. You don't even have your first pair of boots. There are others who share that same kind of experience. then it also means that you find your way into gangsterism, because that gives you some way of escaping the poverty. Gangsterism or drug dealing brings in some money. Now you are able to buy a jeans or running shoes or whatever it is that you need. It also means not enjoying the kind of meals that some of your players who are from schools where they normally are raised to become Springboks. So Ashwin has had that experience, and when he talks about having fought against all the prejudices that he has experienced to become the Ashwin Willemse that we know today, then I fully understand that frustration.
Remind us how he found the path to rugby.
There was one particular teacher called Andre the Brain in Caledon. He is the guy who helped him to escape poverty and to focus more on his rugby talent. And that was the moment when he realized that he could make a living out of becoming a professional rugby player.
And then becoming this huge role model.
Yeah, because in his first year of playing for the Springboks, first season, he won all the major rugby awards: Player of the Year, Players Player of the Year, and also Newcomer of the Year. So there cannot be any doubt that once he got his opportunity, he showed that he was worth playing in the national team. And that's why it's such a pity that the reference to quota player is made at all. But unfortunately for some people, you will never be good enough while you don't have a particular skin color.
One of the statements that's been put out today is from the Portfolio Committee on Sport and Recreation, saying that there is concern, there is the potential for this particular incident to polarize rugby in South Africa. We're asking that question of our audience today. Do you agree with that?
The polarization has been there forever. I think
this could amplify.
I mean, even while we were supposed to be unified since 1992, the polarization has been there. And it is so ironic that you see this statement by the minister over the weekend talking about racism and this nonsense must come to an end, blah, blah, blah. But barely a week ago, I think, they were celebrating SA Rugby, or rugby as one of the sports who supposedly has made a lot of progress when it comes to transformation. We don't see that when this kind of incident happens.
Heindrich, how's this going to be resolved, do you think? Can it be resolved?
SA Rugby and Supersport has a great opportunity of bringing the parties together and doing it in a public way, not just behind closed doors. And use them as a catalyst to unite people, to tell South Africans that yes, there are these differences, but we should talk about it always, and it should never polarize us.
Author Heindrich Wyngaard, thank you very much indeed.
Thank you for the opportunity.